Today, I'm going to show you guys how to install the Rekluse Z-Start Pro. This is going to be in the 2006 KTM 300 XCW. We have the whole new assembly, clutch basket, which is actually the problem that I'm having with the bike right now. And we have the Rekluse is already installed. So what we're going to do, tear it all apart, get it all out of here, get the new clutch basket installed, put it all back together, and get it back in the bike. I'm going to try and be as detailed as I can explaining how to do this stuff. This is just how I do it. Make sure you follow the instructions that came with your bike's manual and with the Rekluse clutch, okay? So we already removed some of the bolts from our clutch cover. Doing this with the oil still in the transmission, in the gearbox. So all you really have to do is just lay the bike over, nothing will spill out. You might get a little drip from the clutch, but it's no big deal. So to get this thing out, first we have to remove this plate right here. You have a whole bunch of these little screws. Now the Z-Start Pro actually came with this bit. There is a spring underneath this plate. So when you get down to the last couple bolts, you want to make sure you add pressure to it, because if not, it'll pop up a little bit. And you could lose the ball bearings that are in there or whatever. So we got this out. These are the bearings. When we put this back in, I'll go a little more in depth about what these are actually for and how you position them to get different reactions out of your clutch. This is the spring I was talking about. So it'll come with 3 of these springs. Two of them are these 2-inch springs. They have different resistance on them compared to how you want to set up with the bearings that we just pulled out to show when the clutch will actually engage. We can leave the pressure rod in, but you want to hang on to this guy because you're going to reuse this as well. So first, we can remove this friction plate. Now with the steel plate, it's locked in by these 3 little black washers. So we got to remember, pull these out and definitely put them back in. What I like to do, pull it out just a little bit, get a little washer, get a magnet, and it'll pick it right up. You don't want to drop these down inside your clutch. They're really hard to see, and you'll catch hell trying to get them. Now that we've got 3 little washers out, we can remove all of the plates. So if we get the clutch positioned just right, you can actually reach down and just pull them all out. So if you look inside here, I already have it bent down and loose. There is a lock washer underneath this bolt to hold your whole inner hub assembly on. You want to make sure you notch down those sides in here. Can you see down there? Right there. And on this side, so you can remove that bolt. There's plenty of different ways to remove a bolt. You can buy a clutch tool that would actually hold the basket still. With us, we got an impact with 27mm socket. Fits down in there just right. The bolt comes right off. And you pull the inner assembly out. So now we have basically the whole thing apart. We can just reach down, pull the basket out. Now, what you want to do is make sure everything, all the gears are still intact. None of them are broken or slipped or bent over, because this is the gear that you're going to be using to mount in the new basket. Now, we have all our parts stationed on the bench. Now, a lot of people get kind of nervous about doing this stuff, but the instructions and everything were extremely clear, and it's not a big deal to drill out your clutch basket, because for one, the basket's already ruined, so you don't have to worry about screwing it up. And two, it's extremely easy. So what we have to do, the new Rekluse basket, we're going to take this gear off, drill these rivets out, take this gear off, and mount it to the back of the new clutch basket. So if you guys can look and see in these grooves in the old basket, I don't know if you can really get down in there and see it. It's really grooved out just all over. Now I did take a file and I filed them all down just a little bit to see if that was actually the problem, because I wasn't 100%. And when I filed them down, I installed the clutch back, hopped on the bike, and it was a lot more responsive, but it was still slipping a whole lot. This one's ruined. It's a stock basket from a 2006, so they do have a lifespan. And unfortunately, this one has reached the end of its cycle. If your basket doesn't have these little divots in it, you can get a punch tool or something. Make sure you get in the center of these rivets with the punch tool, so you can drill them out. That way the drill bit doesn't walk on you, because you really don't want to ruin this gear. You don't want to scar it up or anything. You want it to be as perfect as you can possibly keep it. So with the bit that came with the Rekluse basket kit, this bit that I'm trying to show the camera right now, this bit came with the clutch basket specifically to drill these out. Yeah, it popped right out. Nothing to it. Let's get the rest of these out of here. Here's the old plate. Pulled the gear off. Gear looks good. And the old basket. Do, take the new basket, comes these rubber grommets, came with some Loctite 262, which is the red Loctite. So with this, these should never back out, ever. You want to get all of these seated. Make sure they're all down. So you want to pay attention, not put the gear in upside down. You don't want to go in like this, because then this won't work. Just like you took it apart. Make sure it slides over everything nice. It's even, there's no gaps. See how that looks right there? What? Looks good. Put the new back plate on. Make sure all your holes line up. What we're gonna do, get the Loctite just on the beginning of the screws or the bolts. You don't have to go crazy, because once they go in and start threading in, the Loctite's going to cover this whole thing. So what's really important with anything that you're doing with these bikes, when you're putting in multiple bolts like this, is to go in a star pattern. So everything is bolted down evenly. This is a number 3, a 3mm Allen wrench, metric, because you know this is Austrian, not American. Tighten this one down. You can see you got some play over here. You want to tighten this guy. Pretty sure there's a torque spec on this in the instructions. But if you're like me, you don't like instructions. You can feel pretty much when it's seated. And there's a new basket ready to go in. No grooves. This thing is gonna be amazing. Yeah. What we're gonna do pretty much is the complete opposite of what we did taking this thing apart. So putting the new basket in, make sure it seats. There we go. Slides all the way down. It will catch sometimes on here, and it won't slide all the way down, but you mess with it a little bit, it'll lock down in there. Something else you want to pay attention to is this washer that goes on the rear. Sometimes when you pull these inner hubs apart and you pull these out, the washer will stick back here. You want to pay attention to that. You definitely don't want to lose it or drop it, because that's what keeps this from rubbing this thing raw, basically. Get that down there. Make sure nothing's grinding, rubbing. Feels good. I'm gonna loosely put this nut back on here. If you go at it 100% and you cross thread this thing, well, that's it. Your clutch is ruined. Get all that down in here. That's on there good. With this, you can take this apart. There's really no need to doing this job and installing it for this purpose, but there's a ring in here. I don't know if you can see down in here. You can see the edge of the ring right there. You basically pry one side out, pop it out, and this whole insert will come out. But we don't have to do that, like I said, for this install, so it's gonna stay in there. Now, have to pry this little and get the lock washer back up, which is a little tricky. You don't want to put too much pressure on this hub. So we got that side up. Get this side. There we go. See, we got the flaps bent up, just as an extra safety, so that bolt will not be coming out. And one thing I did notice first time I took this apart was in here, these little rings. Some kits are optional, some kits are not. Some will come with 3 little rubber grommets to go in these holes, and some will come with all of them, some won't come with any. With this one, I only have 2 in here, but since there was no sign of another one of these little grommets anywhere, we're gonna leave it just like that, and it should function just fine. Now, one difference between a stock clutch and the Z-Start Pro, I'm not sure if the other Rekluse models are like this or not, but with this one, you're gonna start with a steel plate instead of a friction plate. That is very important. You start with the steel plate because you'll end with a friction plate. Now, if you have new friction plates you're putting in, what I have done in the past, which works extremely well, and I think is a very good practice, is soaking these in oil before you put them inside your clutch. If not, they'll all stick together and your clutch won't work properly. Before we put the last friction plate on, remember, we need to get these little black washers in there because that holds this plate on. So we get the washers in these little holes. So to lock this plate down, and then we'll put the last friction plate on. Now if you look, they're beveled. They have a little arch in them. I don't know if you can see that.
There you can kind of see it.
So I'm going to put that arch facing up. That way there's more pressure pushing down on this plate. I could not find anywhere that states which way these are supposed to go, but with common sense, we're going to do it the way we think it should go. So now we got our 3 little washers in there, so nothing's going to come out. Put our last friction plate in. Now this, some models will actually come with more spacers, washers to go on this plug, depending on, I guess, the make and model of your bike. We're gonna put the same spring back in. Now with this, you wanna make sure it's gonna line up with these notches. That way your top plate can actually sit right on down in here. It's a little tricky, but if you mess with it some, you'll be able to get it to click, fall right in place, just like that. And before we put the top plate on, we have these bearings spaced out to a certain degree according to instructions for this clutch for when it engages. That the spring that is underneath this plate and these bearings, the way they're spaced out, will cause it to engage at a certain RPM level, whether you're woods racing or you're in motocross or whatever, single tight track, rocks, hill climbs, whatever. You can adjust this thing accordingly to whenever you want this to actually kick in with your RPMs. And there's different types of balls you can get for them. But for right now, we're gonna keep this just the way we had it. So the tricky part is once you have it seated, get this plate on here. I like to put a bolt in each one of these on each side just to hold it, and then put the rest of them in, kind of like we did the basket, and then just work our way around in a star pattern and make sure it's all bolted down. To get them kind of started, just to get it on there a little bit. So I'm gonna make sure this is seated all the way. Lock a couple of these down. Make sure it's in there. Everything's good to go. We'll go ahead. Star pattern. Now we know everything's fixed, everything's working right. We have 100% Rekluse clutch Z-Start Pro in the bike now. So stock clutch we'll keep off to the side. The basket we'll probably keep as well, just because I'm a hoarder. I like keeping bike parts. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you have other ideas or other ways to install these clutches, let me know. This is just the way that I do it. Make sure you like and subscribe. I'm Tin West Moto, and I'll see you on the starting line.